Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's February 24th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And you can see we had follow through selling today, so another down day. We kind of bounced off this purple band here, and my guess is we're gonna at least test these lows here, and we may go on down and test the lows all the way down here before it's over. And that would put us in probably put us into oversold territory where maybe we might see a rally at that point. So it looks like we're still in this range. You can see how flat even the bands are. They're just kind of undulating up and down, and now they're starting to turn over again. So unless we bounce here and turn back up, it looks like these bands are going to continue sideways. So it looks like we're still in the range as of now, and that could change. We could turn and just we might break out and continue lower. We'll have to see uh, how we react when we get down here. But my guess is we'll probably test this tomorrow, these lows here, and even maybe even test these. We could pull back to test the. We pushed through the midline here, and we haven't pulled back to test that yet. So we could pull back and test that tomorrow before we go lower some more. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but in the near term, it looks like we have some more room for to the downside. So that's the way I would leave it. But very bearish day. We tried to trade up, failed and turned down and closed very near the bottom. So on the daily chart or on the 2000 tick chart, it looks like a just a big range today. So, but I would say it was more of a bearish day than anything. But let's flip over there and take a look at it, and we'll go through the trades and wrap this day up. And here it is. There's no news to no high volatility news items today. So we started off very bearish, dropped down here. We opened up here around 60.50, and the close from the previous day was looks like 60.30. So you would expect prices when they started dropping here was not a real surprise that we would try to fill that gap, but we just went right on through. Bounced, kind of chopped sideways. It looked like we had a big two-tiered range. This might be an overshoot. This fits really well down here. And it does look like we did attempt to make a new low, but we just didn't get there before the day was over. So I do believe this two-tier channel is correct, and this was a break, and looked like we were heading lower again, and just didn't quite get it done. So you had to be a little patient this morning. There wasn't much this morning. There were quite a few up here late afternoon. We had this tight range, and so it made it a little easier to trade that as a range. But let's zoom in here, and we'll work through the chart and the trades. Again, we start off sideways. Look like we're going to go sideways, but there is a channel working down, and we bounce off the lows here. And really, it was difficult to find these lows because it was really hard to know where the midline was until we got a few tests of it. And so really it was difficult to know where the low was until it was in place. I'll just leave it at that. So um, anyway, 7 o'clock came as we had this trend coming down, and we got a break and a couple of legs down, and we're just kind of bouncing along that midline. And 7 o'clock came in there. We made the low here. You see, we had a break and two legs down. This was a little before 7 o'clock here, so you couldn't really take that one. But we came back, we tested this a few times, and finally had a little failed breakout that failed and turned down. And I like going short there, and it's also a first entry, second entry short. And so I would call that a triple test, double top. Even here, you could almost argue that's a triple test. But it breaks higher and fails. I wouldn't trade that on the engulfing bar because that's a little congested. I'd wait for this to close, and it closes pretty bearish, so I like going short there, and that turns out to be a pretty good move down. We bounce off the lows down here. Unfortunately, you get this little inside bar. It's only like 7 ticks, and it's fairly bullish, and it is inside, closing back inside the range. But I think you needed at least one test or a higher low or something else here before you went long. I just didn't like taking that inside bar. And then it runs straight back up and turns down and confirms that trend line and turns down again. But you still have this in play, so I don't think you can go short yet. We are a long way away from the EMA. I think, again, you need a lower high or something of that nature, and you don't get a lower high till down here, and it's moved too far. Now, that is a second entry short, but again, it's just not it's not a perfect setup. This is one that you might take. I went back and forth about over it. I didn't like it in real time. I thought it was too risky because we just came off the lows and we hadn't reached the highs, and we hadn't had a retest of this. Obviously, the main trend line was the bigger pattern, so it's probably why we didn't go higher. But I was a little afraid of that in real time. But I'll give it a green. If you saw it and took it, knowing it's a little aggressive, I think because it is a second entry. Notice the new swing low, first entry, then it moves higher when it breaks below that little 2-bar matching low. Let me zoom in here. That's a second entry short, and there's still room back down here to the lows, and this thing just pushes right on through. And then you get a first entry, another second entry, and you hadn't had a retest of this, but you hadn't had a retest of the high either. So for that reason, and I just think it's a little risky. We are making lower highs each time. So maybe you still take that one. I marked it green. Again, I think it's a little risky. Then we make a new low, and that's just a first entry. And so you get another second entry here. And if it would have broke below that bar, I'd say, hey, it's a repeat pattern, take it. But it didn't. And it gave you that inside bar doji. And so now you got congestion there. And there's not a whole lot of room. There's enough room to scalp out, but there's not a whole lot of room. So I just sit tight on it. Again, it turns out to be a great trade, but you just don't know that in advance. And we just really don't get an entry all the way down here until finally you get 2 legs back. Technically, that's not a second entry by the counts because that makes a little lower low, but I still think you can count that as 2 legs back to the EMA and a big bearish bar and take that as a short there. I like that one. If nothing else, you could just count it as a little congestion area and a failed breakout. So you can trade it that way as well. The only problem with that is you may not have enough room to scalp out there. But if you really look to the lows, I think you got enough room there. And it's just getting too dangerous to enter down here. So just sit tight, and then it bounces. Unfortunately, I don't see anything you can take all the way back up here, and I don't see a short you want to take because we're trending higher. And so you just kind of have to sit here and watch this one. And then finally you get a move down here to the lows. And again, that's just a first entry, but it's clearly 2 legs down, and it's the first break of this spike and channel up. So your prices are probably going to try to retest the high. So maybe you go long there. The better trade is to wait on the higher low here. It's good for a scalp, nothing more, and then it turns back down again. And there is a lower high here, but there's not a lot of room back to the EMA there. You can see there's only a point or so, and even if you kind of slide it to the side, you got to get it way down here. And so I'm not crazy about entering there, but it's another one you might consider. Again, it's a little aggressive. It turns out to be a great move, but it's just not a great setup. And you do get your closeout side new low, but nothing to go long on there, and nothing to really go short. You do make a lower high here, but again, I just think you have to sit tight. And finally, you get 2 legs up in a second entry here. That's easily a double top, and it's a big bearish bar. And it actually breaks higher and fails and turns down. I'd wait for that to close, though. And you even get another lower high, but it's moved too far there. And then it bounces 2 legs back up here to the you do get a close outside here. It looks like you can clearly see there's a channel there. And so this would be a hidden second entry. You might take it as well. I'd probably want to wait on a lower high or something. And you get one, but it doesn't set up very good. And then I think this is an overshoot. Now, do you take this as an overshoot? I don't think so because you don't quite have a new. Well, we don't even have a break of this yet, and we've been bouncing down this midline multiple times, and we haven't gone back to here yet again. So that kind of gives you a little bit of reason to say, hey, it may turn up here. It's that far away from the EMA, and we bounced off this midline 1, 2, 3, 4 times now. That's like a triple test or whatever. I don't think you want to make that a sure thing, but there's some reasons to like that trade. We run up, we get a break outside, we move to a new high, and we still haven't got back to this trend line. And then we got a trend down, and we get a close outside and new low, and that's a second entry long there. So I like taking that, just hoping that, and it does confirm this trend line like a spiking channel. So it could be working back to this trend line, and it could just keep going higher. And then when you get a higher low here, if it breaks above that, I like going long. And then it pulls back here, and it looks like it's going to turn down, but it doesn't. It just keeps going higher. There's another second entry right here, but it looks a little sideways, and it doesn't. It makes a lower high, but it doesn't make a lower low, and it just looks too sideways. So, and it's just an inside bar. So I don't think you can take that. It turns out to be a great move. You get a lower high here and a break. So that's a second entry. Notice you got a leg down, correction, and then it falls. And you actually get another trend here, but you get a close outside. So I think you can count that as a second entry long. Bounces off the key entry point. You got a close outside and a new low. I like just trying to ride that back to the EMA, and hopefully you get a new high here. So that second entry runs up. It does make a new high. Then it makes a lower high. Second entry short. Notice that new low. First entry, second entry. So I like entering there. And then all of a sudden it gives you another lower high and a triple test and a very low risk bar. So if you weren't already in this trade, definitely enter there. And it's good for a scalp, probably not much more. And then you get the close outside of this channel. Again, you get a higher low, but it's got a lot of stem up here. I don't think you want to enter here because you don't really, you get a new low in place. You get a new high here, but no new low in place, but it just keeps chopping higher. But notice how you get a triple test here. I don't think that signal bar is quite good enough, but then you get another double top and at least a quadruple test, and that's a great signal bar. So I like going short there. It ends up making a higher low, but you would have got your scalp, and it makes a higher low and goes higher. I don't think you want to enter long there. I think there is enough room to get out, but I'm just not crazy about taking that. There is enough room to get out there. It does break lower and fail and turn up. The odds are it's probably going to at least test this again, and it's probably going to go higher because you can see it's making a higher low every time. That's a clue that we're probably going to go higher. So maybe you take that trade. And you can see it takes off. Runs to a new high, then turns down, close outside, move to a new low. There's no entries here until you do get the close outside, new low, and so that's a higher low. You could enter there. It's a pretty big bar, but I still think you could enter there because a lot of times you're going to get another move up. You get a first entry, second entry. It's like a third entry. And so I don't think you want to enter there. You want to wait on a lower high. And you get one here, but it's somewhat of a double bottom. But then finally you get a reversal pattern. So it looks like maybe you're going to reverse. If worst case scenario, you're probably going to get a double bottom. But you're still expecting a retest of the lows here on this move down. So I like that one as a reversal pattern. It doesn't end up reversing. It ends up finding support and then going higher again. But notice how you cannot push through there. And notice this is all, I would count this as just a new low. So a first entry, Second entry right off the highs up there. You do get a closeout side and a new high all in one bar as well. So I think you can count that as the second entry though. And then you get a lower high. That's the better entry. And then you get another test of it. So now you got multiple tests. So as long as you got, notice how you bounce at the midline, you got to have room back to there. And it does easily go back to there. It actually goes on lower. It looks like it's going to come back and stop you out, but I think you would have already been out before it even pulls back. Then you get a break, move to a new low, which turns out to be a failed breakout, reverses back up. I don't think you can enter there. There was a second entry long here, but you're not to the lows yet, so just sit tight on that. No second entry short. And you don't want to be trying to trade a breakout here, because they usually are going to fail and come back and retest. And sure enough, it fails on 2 legs back. So that's the second entry short. Notice the channel working back up. You get a close outside, move to a new high. And you probably could argue there's a triple test across there. It's close, but either way, you got your second entry short and a retest of the channel up here. I like going short there. And then it's just working sideways here, no trade. That's a little breakout pullback short, but no entry there. And looks like you got a channel working down lower here again, and it's working back. Notice you get a break here, move to a new high, and it turns down right off that key entry point. Big bearish bar. I like going short there, but again, you might wait on the lower high, which comes here. And you could also argue that's a first entry, second entry, so a failure on a continuation pattern. But I just like it as turning down off the key entry point and the little range there. It's a bearish bar. It's another good move down, takes you into 230. There's a perfect second entry there, but it's a little late to take that one. But there it is. Again, it's mostly a range. We had a big down day, recovered some of it, and then sold off and tested the lows. But we never really broke below those lows again today. So I think you could call that a big range. Or you could look at it, hey, there's a two-tiered channel working lower that had a break, and the retest just didn't get there before the end of the day. Looks like we're going to get there now because we're pushing on lower here. We'll see what happens. Doesn't really matter. What usually happens in this first few hours of the overnight session do not really amount to much. I wouldn't even attempt to trade that personally. But there it is. Just kind of we had to move down, move up, and another move down. It's just kind of a down, up, down day, sideways. But there are some channels in there. The easiest trading was really this channel here, almost. Of course, we had this uptrend here that gave you a few trades as well. So it's kind of sparse this morning. But anyway, that's pretty much going to cover it. Not much else I can say about today. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. One thing, I do have a dentist appointment tomorrow. So I'm going to try to do the chart lesson a little early before I go to that dentist appointment. But if for some reason I can't get it done early before I go, I'll do it when I get back. So it might be a little bit late. So there's a chance tomorrow could be early or late. And I apologize, but I can't get out of this dentist appointment. I'd forgotten about it. And if I cancel it, they charge me for the visit anyway, so I'm kind of stuck with it. And so if I'm a little early or a little late, I apologize, but I'll get a chart list. I mean, I'll get a mid-morning chart out whether it's early or late. So you'll get one. It just might not be right on time tomorrow. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.